The rope creaked in the desert wind. Ezekiel Thornfield pulled his dying horse to a stop beneath a gnarled cottonwood tree where a young Comanche girl hung unconscious from a noose. A crude wooden sign nailed to the bark bore words carved deep into weathered pine, "White men don't forgive." The horse's legs buckled. Zeke slid from the saddle as his mount collapsed, foam specking its muzzle. The animal's ribs heaved once, twice, then stilled. Behind the tree, a Comanche camp spread across the valley floor. Lodge poles stood naked against the sky. Scattered belongings caught the morning light. No bodies, no blood. Just emptiness where life had been. The girl's feet swayed inches from the ground. Her dark hair fell across her face in tangles. 12 years old, maybe 13. The noose had been tied loose. Meant to choke slowly. Zeke drew his knife and cut the rope. She hit the earth gasping. Her eyes snapped open, black and wild. She rolled away from him and sprang to her feet, backing against the tree trunk. Words poured from her mouth in rapid Comanche. Her small fists clenched. He raised his empty hands. Easy now. She grabbed a rock and hurled it at his head. It whistled past his ear. "I'm not going to hurt you." He kept his voice low, steady. "The soldiers are gone." Her chest rose and fell like a trapped animal's. She understood some English. He could see it in her eyes. "What's your name?" She spit in the dust between them. Zeke tried broken Spanish. "Como te llamas?" "Ayana." The word came sharp as flint. "Where are the others?" "Your people?" She pointed toward the eastern mountains. "Soldados azules, blue coats." Her English carried a thick accent. "They take my mother. My baby brother." The wind shifted. In the distance, a bugle call echoed off canyon walls. The sound made Ayana's face go white. "They come back," she whispered. Zeke looked toward the sound. Dust rose against the horizon. A patrol returning to finish what they'd started. His horse lay dead. The nearest town was 40 miles through Apache Pass. No water, no food. The girl couldn't make such a journey on foot. Neither could he. The bugle sounded again, closer now. Ayana grabbed his arm. "You help me?" Every instinct told him to walk. Away. Find a place to hide until the soldiers passed. He'd spent 3 years avoiding the army. 3 years keeping his head down, working cattle ranches and mining camps, staying invisible. But those eyes, dark as river stones, holding more pain than any child should carry. Where would we go? Fort Bowie, where they take prisoners. She pointed southeast. My mother there, my brother. Fort Bowie, the place he'd sworn never to see again. That's 60 miles, through desert. You know desert? Zeke nodded. He knew it well enough, knew which cactus held water, which rocks gave shade, which trails the Apache avoided. The dust cloud grew larger, maybe a dozen riders. Ayana began gathering scattered belongings from the abandoned camp. A water gourd, strips of dried meat, a small knife with a bone handle. She moved with purpose, no wasted motion. "You soldier before," she said without looking at him. It wasn't a question. Zeke's hand moved instinctively to his hip where a cavalry saber once hung. "What makes you say that?" "The way you stand. How you look at horizon." She stuffed the dried meat into a leather pouch. "You run from blue coats too." The observation cut close to bone. This girl saw too much. The bugle call came a third time, close enough to make out individual hoofbeats. Ayana slung the water, gourd across her shoulder. "We go now, or we die here." Zeke looked at the dead horse, at the empty camp, at the girl who should have died on that rope, but somehow still breathed, at the dust cloud approaching fast from the east. "Stay close." "To me," he said. They moved southwest toward broken country, where rocks provided cover. Ayana's moccasins made no sound on the hard ground. Zeke's boots felt clumsy by comparison. Behind them, the hoofbeats grew louder. They reached a shallow arroyo as the first riders crested the ridge. Zeke pulled Ayana down behind weathered sandstone. Through a gap in the rocks, he watched 12 cavalry soldiers approach the hanging tree. A colonel dismounted and examined the cut rope. He was tall, angular, with gray whiskers and cold eyes. He barked orders at his men. The soldiers spread out, searching the abandoned camp. One pointed toward the dead horse. Another held up tracks in the dust. The colonel walked to where Ayana had been gathering supplies. He knelt and picked up something from the ground. A torn piece of cloth. He stood slowly, studying the surrounding terrain. His gaze swept the arroyo where they hid. Ayana pressed herself against the rock wall. Her breathing came shallow and quick. The colonel mounted his horse. He gestured toward the mountains, then toward the desert. The patrol split into two groups. Half rode toward the mountains. The other half headed southwest, toward them. Zeke counted 6 riders picking their way down the slope. They would reach the arroyo in minutes. He touched Ayana's shoulder and pointed deeper into the maze of rocks. She nodded and began crawling through narrow passages. Between boulders, the sound of hooves on stone echoed off canyon walls. Getting closer, they emerged from the rocks onto a flat expanse of desert. No cover for miles except scattered mesquite and prickly pear. The sun climbed higher, already burning hot. Behind them, voices called out as the soldiers found their trail. Ayana looked back once, then ahead toward the shimmering horizon. How far to water? Zeke studied the landscape. 10 miles. Maybe 12. She adjusted the water gourd on her shoulder. We make it. They walked into the vastness. Behind them, dust rose where mounted men followed their tracks. The water hole lay in shadow between red rocks. Zeke knelt at the muddy edge and filled their gourd, while Ayana watched the desert behind them. No dust clouds, no glint of metal in sunlight, for now. They had walked through the heat of day. Her moccasins had worn thin. His boots had rubbed his feet raw. Neither complained. Ayana cupped water in her hands and drank. They will find this place tonight, maybe tomorrow. Zeke capped the gourd. We keep moving. She studied his face. You know these soldiers. It wasn't a question. The girl saw everything. Some of them. They know you too. Zeke stood and shouldered the water. We should go. They climbed out of the rocks as the sun touched the western mountains. The desert stretched endless before them. Behind them, somewhere in that vastness, men with horses and rifles followed their trail. 3 days passed this way. Walking before dawn, resting in whatever shade they could find. Walking again until dark. Always moving southeast toward Fort Bowie. On the 3rd evening they sheltered in an abandoned mine shaft. Zeke had shot a rabbit with Ayana's small bow. They ate the meat cold. No fire. Smoke carried too far in clear air. Tell me about your family, Zeke said. Ayana's hands stilled on the rabbit bones. My father died 2 winters ago. Sickness. She threw a bone into the darkness. My mother, she is strong. Keep us alive when others starve. Your brother? 2 years old. He laugh all the time, even when hungry. Her voice caught. Blue coats, they will kill him. Kill my mother too. Not if we reach them first. She looked at him across the small space between them. Why you help me? The question hung in the air. Zeke had asked himself the same thing every mile they'd walked. I don't know. You lie, maybe he did. Maybe the truth was too heavy to speak, too much like confession. Ayana wrapped herself in the thin blanket they'd taken from her camp. My uncle will come for me. Your uncle? Or Chief Nakoni? My father's brother. She closed her eyes. He think white man's world make me sick. Poison my spirit. Does it? She was quiet so long he thought she'd fallen asleep. Then, everything. Make me sick now. The fourth day brought them to broken country. Mesas rose from the desert floor. Canyons cut deep into red stone. Places where a man could hide. Places where a man could die. They stopped at midday in the shade of an overhang. The heat pressed down heavy and still. Nothing moved in the vast landscape. Then Ayanna pointed northeast. Smoke. Zeke followed her gaze. 3 thin columns rose straight up in the windless air, widely spaced, deliberate. Signals, she said. From who? My uncle. Her voice carried no relief, no joy. Just resignation. He knows I am here. The smoke hung in the sky for an hour, then faded. By evening, when they made camp in a narrow canyon, answering smoke appeared to the south. And to the west. Ayanna watched the signals with dark eyes. They talk about us. What do they say? Girl walks with white man. Girl is lost. She pulled her knees to her chest. They will try to take me. To protect you. To purify me. Or kill me if I cannot be purified. The words fell between them. Heavy as stones. That night Zeke took first watch. Ayanna slept fitfully, murmuring words in Comanche. Her small body curled tight against dreams. He studied her face in the starlight. The proud line of her jaw, the way her hands stayed clenched even in sleep. She carried herself with dignity that should have taken decades to earn. When she woke for her turn at watch, she found him still staring at the stars. You do not sleep, can't. She settled beside him against the canyon wall. Bad dreams? Bad memories? About the army? Zeke's jaw tightened. About a lot of things. You were officer. I see it in how you move. How you watch. He said nothing. What you do, why you run. The question cut to bone. The thing he'd spent 3 years avoiding. I refused an order. What order? Doesn't matter now, but it did matter. It mattered every day. Every time he closed his eyes and saw. Faces that would never age beyond the moment they died. Ayanna was quiet for a long time. When she spoke, her voice was soft. My people have word, Tukatu. It means something that cannot be undone. Yes. You carry Tukatu, we all do. She nodded as if this made perfect sense. As if a 12-year-old girl understood the weight that bent grown men's backs. The 5th day brought riders. They were crossing open ground when Ayanna stopped suddenly. She pointed to a ridge a mile away where dust rose against the sky. 3 men, on horses. Zeke shaded his eyes. The dust moved parallel to their path, not approaching, not retreating, just keeping pace. Army? No, Indian ponies. Ayanna's voice went tight. My uncle's men. They kept walking. The riders kept their distance, shadows moving across the land. At noon the shadows multiplied. 6 riders now, then 9. By evening they were surrounded. Ayanna made no attempt to run. She sat on a flat rock and waited as the riders closed their circle. Painted warriors on painted ponies. Faces hard as the stone beneath their feet. One man rode forward. Older than the others. Gray streaked his black hair. Scars marked his chest. And arms. His eyes found Ayanna and held her gaze. Uncle, she said in English. War Chief Nokoni dismounted. He spoke in rapid Comanche. His voice carried anger and sorrow in equal measure. Ayanna answered in the same language. Back and forth they spoke while Zeke stood silent, understanding none of the words but reading the tension in their bodies. Finally Nokoni turned to him. His English was careful, precise. You are the white man who cuts down my sister's daughter. Yes. Why? She was dying. Death would have been cleaner. Nokoni's hand rested on his knife handle. The other warriors watched with predator stillness. She wants to find her mother, Zeke said. Her brother. They are dead. She doesn't know that. Now she does. Ayanna's face went white. She spoke to her uncle in Comanche, her voice rising. He answered with sharp finality. She turned too. Zeke. He says the prisoners died of sickness, all of them. The words hit her hard. She doubled over as if struck in the stomach. Her breath came in short gasps. Nokoni knelt beside her. His scarred hands touched her shoulders gently. He spoke in low tones, offering comfort she couldn't accept. When the storm passed, Ayana straightened. Her eyes were dry but hollow. What now? Zeke asked. Nokoni stood. Now you die. She comes home. She doesn't want to come home. What she wants no longer matters. The white man's touch has poisoned her spirit. She must be cleansed. And if she can't be? The war chief's silence was answer enough. Ayana struggled to her feet. She faced her uncle with her chin raised. When she spoke, her voice carried steel. I go with him. You are no longer my blood. Then I am no longer your responsibility. The words hung in the desert air. Final. As death, Nokoni mounted his horse. His warriors followed his lead, but instead of riding away, they formed a wider circle. Waiting. They will follow us, Ayana said. How far? Until one of us dies. The canyon walls rose steep on both sides. Devil's Canyon. A place where the earth had split open and left only one way through. Zeke studied the narrow passage ahead and felt the trap closing around them. Behind them, Nokoni's warriors maintained their distance, dark shapes against red stone, patient as death itself. There's another way, Ayana said. She pointed to a crack in the western wall. Goat trail, very dangerous. More dangerous than this? She looked back at her uncle's men. Maybe not. They climbed. The trail was barely wide enough for one person. Loose shale shifted under their feet. 100 feet below, the canyon floor waited. Halfway up, the army found them. Colonel Blackwood's voice echoed off the canyon walls. Lieutenant Thornfield. Zeke stopped climbing. His hands gripped the rock face. I know you're up there, Lieutenant. Time to come home. Ayana pressed herself against the stone. They know your name. They know more than that. Below them, a dozen cavalry soldiers blocked the canyon mouth. Above them, the trail disappeared into shadow. No way forward, no way back. You deserted your post, Lieutenant. Left good men to die. Blackwood's voice carried easy authority. But we're willing to discuss terms. What terms? Zeke called down. The girl for your life. Ayana's knuckles went white on the rock ledge. Do not listen. She's the key to everything, Lieutenant. The uprising, the weapon shipments. All of it. What weapon shipments? Silence from below. Too long a silence. Zeke understood. The girl had seen something, heard something. The massacre wasn't about Indian raids. It was about covering tracks. Climb, he whispered to Ayana. They moved up the cliff face as voices argued below. Nokoni's warriors had arrived. Two forces facing each other across the canyon floor. Neither side backing down. The trail ended at a narrow ledge. Barely 6 feet wide. Sheer drop on one side, solid rock on the other. A dead end. Ayana sat with her back to the wall. I remember now, the morning they came. What do you remember? Wagons. Before the attack, white men bringing boxes to my uncle's camp. She closed her eyes. My mother told me to hide. But I saw them. The boxes had army marks. What was in them? Rifles. New ones, the white men, they spoke with my uncle about. Fighting other tribes. About war with the army. The pieces fell together. Blackwood selling weapons to the Comanche. Probably other tribes too. Creating conflicts that justified more military funding. More supplies to steal and sell. When the deal went wrong, he'd eliminated the witnesses. All except one small girl who should have died on a rope. Gunfire erupted below. Not the disciplined volleys of army training. The sharp crack of individual shots. A running fight through broken ground. Zeke peered over the ledge. Muzzle flashes lit the canyon shadows. Men moved between rocks. Horses reared and scattered. In the chaos, a third group entered the canyon. A lone rider picking his way through the crossfire with cold precision. "Bounty hunter," Zeke said. Ayanna looked down at the fighting. "Silas Grimm. You know him? My uncle spoke of him. The man who never stops hunting." Grimm dismounted and found cover behind a fallen boulder. His rifle spoke once. A warrior. Toppled from his horse, the rifle spoke again. A cavalry soldier spun and fell. He was hunting both sides, clearing the field. "We have to move," Zeke said. "Where? Good question." The ledge ended 20 feet to their left. Below them, men died in the growing darkness. Above them, solid rock reached toward stars. Ayanna stood and walked to the edge. There. She pointed across the canyon to another ledge. 10 feet, maybe 12. Too far. "Not if we jump." Zeke looked at the gap. Black emptiness between stone shelves. 100 feet of air over sharp rocks. "We'll never make it. We will die here if we stay." More gunfire below, closer now. Someone was climbing the trail. Ayanna backed up to the rock wall. "I go first." "Wait." But she was already running. 3 quick steps to the edge, and she launched herself into space. For a moment she hung in the air, arms outstretched, feet pumping at nothing. She hit the far ledge hard. Her hands clawed at loose stone. Her legs dangled over the drop. Zeke's heart stopped. Then she pulled herself up and turned to face him across the gap. "Your turn." Below them, boot heels scraped on stone. Someone climbing fast. Zeke backed up to the wall. The ledge felt impossibly narrow, the gap impossibly wide. He ran. The moment his feet left stone, he knew he wouldn't make it. The far ledge rushed toward him, but not fast enough. Gravity pulled him down. His chest hit the edge. Air exploded from his lungs. His hands scrambled for purchase on smooth rock. Ayanna grabbed his wrists. Her small hands locked around his arms with desperate strength. "Hold on." He dangled over the abyss while she pulled. Her feet braced against stone, her whole body straining to keep him from falling. Slowly, inch by inch, he climbed up her arms, until he could get an elbow over the ledge, then a knee. Then he rolled onto solid ground and lay gasping. Across the canyon, a figure appeared on the ledge they'd abandoned. Colonel Blackwood in the moonlight. His pistol tracked their position. The shot echoed off canyon walls. Stone chips exploded near Zeke's head. Another shot. This one from below. Blackwood jerked and fell backwards. His body tumbled down the cliff face and disappeared into darkness. Silas Grimm's voice floated up from the canyon floor. "That's $200 you owe me, Lieutenant." Zeke pulled Ayanna deeper into the shadows. The ledge curved around a bend in the canyon wall. Another trail led upward into the rocks. They climbed in silence. Behind them, the gunfire faded. By dawn they had reached the canyon rim. The desert spread endless before them. Fort Bowie lay 20 miles southeast. A day's walk for 2 people with water and hope. They had neither. Ayanna sat on a flat rock and pulled off her moccasins. The soles were worn through. Her feet were cut and bleeding. "I cannot walk much farther." Zeke knelt beside her and examined the wounds. Clean cuts from sharp stone. They would heal if kept clean. He tore strips from his shirt and bound her feet. "This will help." "Why do you do this?" "Do what?" "Take care of me." "Risk everything." She studied his face. "Tell me the truth." The truth. He'd been running from it for 3 years, carrying it across empty miles and sleepless nights. "I had orders," he said finally, "to attack a Comanche camp. Women and children. Mostly, the men were away hunting." Ayanna went very still. "I refused. My commanding officer said we had no choice. The Indians had been raiding settlements, killing families. But you knew better." "I knew the raids were lies. Staged by men selling weapons to both sides." He looked at his hands. I tried to warn the camp, but I was too late. My camp? No, different tribe, 2 years ago. The words came slow and heavy. 43 people died because I was too late. Iana was quiet for a long time. When she spoke, her voice was soft. You carry many ghosts, too many. This is why you helped me. To make the ghosts quiet. Maybe she was right. Maybe saving one life could balance 43 deaths. Maybe redemption was possible for men who'd failed when it mattered most. Or maybe some weights were too heavy to ever set down. Can you walk? He asked. She stood and tested her bandaged feet. I can walk. They moved southeast across broken ground. Behind them, smoke rose from Devil's Canyon. Ahead, Fort Bowie waited. In the morning heat, the place where everything had started. The place where everything would end. Fort Bowie sat in the desert heat like a scar on the earth. Adobe walls, wooden watchtowers. The flag hanging limp in the still air. Zeke and Iana approached from the east, walking slowly across the open ground. No cover here. No place to hide. Just the final stretch of desert between them and whatever waited behind those walls. Guards called out as they drew near. Rifles tracked their movement from the watchtowers. The main gate swung open and soldiers poured out. Major Aldrich emerged from the command building. Tall, thin, with nervous eyes that never held still. He recognized Zeke immediately. Lieutenant Thornfield, you're under arrest for desertion. I need to speak with you privately. You'll speak from a cell. About Colonel Blackwood's weapon sales. Aldrich went very still. His nervous eyes found Iana and understood everything. Bring them both inside, quietly. The fort's interior buzzed with activity. Soldiers moving supplies, horses being shod. The normal rhythm of military life. But underneath it all, tension crackled in the air. They were escorted to Aldrich's office. The major closed the door and pulled the curtains shut. Blackwood is dead, Zeke said. I know. Grimm sent word this morning. Aldrich paced behind his desk. What do you want? Safe passage. For both of us. Impossible. She's seen too much. Heard too much. Iana spoke for the first time since entering the fort. I saw the wagons. The rifles you sold to my people. Aldrich's face went white. You have no proof. I have her testimony. Zeke said, and I know where Blackwood kept his records. A lie, but Aldrich didn't know that. What records? Dates, names, how much you paid him for each shipment you diverted. Zeke stepped closer to the desk. The War Department would be very interested. Aldrich stopped pacing. His hand moved. Toward the pistol on his belt, the door burst open. Miguel Santos stepped inside. Older than Zeke remembered. Gray stubble covered his weathered face. His cavalry uniform was dusty from hard riding. Sergeant Santos, Aldrich said, what is the meaning of this? I'm here for the lieutenant, sir. And the girl. Aldrich's hand closed on his pistol grip. By whose authority? Mine. Miguel's rifle appeared in his hands with practiced ease. The barrel pointed steady at Aldrich's chest. You? Zeke stared at his former sergeant. You're the double agent. Had to be someone. Miguel's eyes never left Aldrich. Then feeding information to the Comanche for 6 months. Trying to stop this war before it really started. You're both traitors, Aldrich snarled. Maybe, but we're alive traitors. Outside, commotion erupted in the courtyard, shouting voices. Running feet, the sound of many horses approaching fast. Miguel moved to the window and peered through the curtains. Noconi's here, with about 50 warriors. Iana joined him at the window. My uncle keeps his word. What word? He said he would follow until one of us died. She looked at Zeke. He is here to collect my body, or yours. The fort's gates slammed shut. Soldiers took positions on the walls. In the distance, war cries echoed off the surrounding hills. "This is madness," Aldrich said. "We'll all die here." "Not all of us." A new voice from the doorway. Silas Grimm stepped into the room. His clothes were torn and bloodstained from the canyon fight. His pale eyes moved from face to face, calculating. "Odds, Mr. Grimm," Aldrich said. "Thank God, these people are wanted criminals." "So are you, Major." Grimm's pistol appeared in his hand. "Turns out there's a federal warrant for your arrest. Something about stolen army supplies. That's impossible. Miguel here sent some interesting telegrams to Washington. Seems the War Department takes a dim view of officers selling weapons to hostiles." The pieces clicked together in Zeke's mind. "You've been working together, you and Miguel. Someone had to clean up this mess." Grimm holstered his weapon. "Question is, what do we do now?" Outside the war, cries grew louder. Rifle fire crackled from the walls as soldiers and warriors exchanged shots. "Noconi wants the girl," Miguel said, "dead or alive." "And I want safe passage," Zeke replied. "Then we make a trade." Grimm moved to the window. "Girl goes to her uncle. You stand trial for desertion. Everyone else goes home." "No." Ayana's voice cut through the room. "I do not go back." "Child, you don't have a choice. I have learned to choose." She stood straighter. "I choose him." The simple words carried weight beyond their meaning. A declaration of loyalty. Of family. Formed in hardship rather than blood. Zeke felt something shift inside his chest. A knot he'd carried for 3 years loosening. "Then we find another way," he said. The battle raged outside for 2 hours. When it ended, the silence felt heavier than the gunfire. Noconi himself appeared in the doorway. War paint streaked his face. His rifle rested easy in his hands. "Uncle." Ayana stepped forward. He studied her face. Saw something there that hadn't been present before. Strength, maybe, or peace. "You have changed, yes. The white man's world has not poisoned you." "No. It has taught me to see clearly." Noconi's gaze moved to Zeke. "You would die for her." "I would, and she for you." "I hope not." The war chief almost smiled. "Family is not made by blood alone." He lowered his rifle. "You may keep her, but you will answer for the crimes of your people." "I will answer for my own crimes. That's enough." Noconi nodded slowly. "It is enough." 1 year later, smoke rose from the chimney of a small trading post built where the hanging tree had stood. Zeke had cut down the cottonwood and used its wood for the walls. New growth sprouted from the old roots. Ayana tended a garden behind the building. Corn and beans and squash in neat rows. Her hands were dirty with rich earth. Miguel emerged from the post carrying supplies for a Comanche family heading north. Trade was good. Trust, slowly earned, brought both peoples to this neutral ground. Grimm had testified at the territorial hearings. Aldrich faced trial in Santa Fe. The weapon sales had stopped. The manufactured war was ending. Zeke split firewood in the shade of a ramada. His hands were scarred from honest work. The ghosts still visited his dreams, but less often now. Ayana looked up from her garden. More riders coming. 3 horses approached from the east. A white family seeking trade goods. Behind them, dust from a larger party. Apache maybe. Or Comanche from another band. "Busy day," Zeke said. "Good day." Ayana wiped dirt from her hands. "I will make coffee." She walked toward the post, pausing to touch his shoulder as she passed. A simple gesture. Connection without words. The riders drew closer. The day's work continued. In this place where death had once hung from a tree, life grew strong in the desert soil. The hanging tree was gone. In its place stood something better. Something that honored the dead by serving the living. And that is all to the story, for now. Please let me know where you are tuning in from. Perhaps we will create a story there. Consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel. And if you enjoy our content, click this video on your screen. I promise you, it's worth watching. See you tomorrow.